1,200 years ago, a thriving city disappeared beneath the Mediterranean, never to be seen again. Countless lives were lost, the equivalent of hundreds of millions of dollars destroyed, and an entire population, an entire livelihood, fell into the shadows of the sea forever. For centuries, the famous lost city of Heracleion has straddled a line between legend and reality. Only scriptures indicated its possible existence. But now, thanks to one persistent man, we have the answers. The lost city, finally, has been found, and it's as beautiful as it is mysterious. How was it uncovered after so long? And how did it sink in the first place? Let's find out. Long before Heracleion found its new home deep beneath the surface of the Mediterranean, it was a booming, vibrant metropolis, welcoming travelers and ships from near and far. You've likely heard of the city of Alexandria, which still stands today as one of Egypt's most popular waypoints and has been doing so since 331 BC. But before Alexandria became known as the dominant Mediterranean port city, that title belonged to Heracleion, which stood as an obligatory port of entry to Egypt for any vessel sailing over from the Greek world. Not only was Heracleion a bustling city for welcoming ships, but it was also an important religious center, thanks to the temple of Amun, who was god of the sun and the air. Amun was one of the most important gods during the New Kingdom era, which spanned about 1570 to 1069 BC. The city, which sat near the canopic mouth of the Nile, about 20 miles northeast of modern-day Alexandria, was built around the Grand Temple and was crisscrossed with a network of canals, linked by ferries, bridges, and pontoons. Imagine Venice, only ancient Egypt style. Each of the islands played host to small homes where the residents went about their daily lives ever since the city's founding, around the 8th century BC. It seems insane that such a flourishing, important metropolis could simply vanish into the ocean, never to be seen again. Yet in the 8th century AD, that's exactly what happened. But how is something so extraordinary actually possible? Once a grand city, today its history is largely obscured and no one is entirely sure of the precise chain of events that caused it to sink. However, we do have reputable theories. Research suggests the site was affected by extensive geological and cataclysmic phenomena. In other words, repeated natural disasters, which slowly caused the sea levels in the area to rise, simultaneously as the earth under the city became increasingly unstable. As the centuries went by, the damage took its toll. The turning point came at the end of the 2nd century BC, likely after a severe and drawn-out flood, an earthquake, or both. That's when the ground on which the central island of Heracleion was sitting succumbed to soil liquefaction. The hard clay morphed into an unstable sludge-like liquid, and the slew of buildings, the Great Temple included, started collapsing violently into the water. While some brave residents chose to stay in the area, into the Roman and Arab eras, by the end of the 8th century AD, the final slivers of the city had been engulfed by Mother Nature. For the better part of 1,200 years, the famed lost city became nothing more than a memory, and then nothing more than a story. As we pushed into the 21st century, scientists and archaeologists struggled to delineate reality from fairy tales. But then, one man changed everything. That man was French archaeologist Frank Goddio, an enigma in the industry who is often considered the pioneer of modern maritime archaeology. Frank was formerly a financial advisor to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and various other governments, but it was in the 1980s that he swiveled his career a complete 180, focusing on his true passion, underwater archaeology. He founded the European Institute of Underwater Archaeology in 1987, of which he remains president. While the past 3 and a bit decades have resulted in numerous shipwreck discoveries, including 2 Spanish galleons, arguably there is no find more impressive than the Egyptian Atlantis, Thonis Heracleion. Contrary to some ancient belief, Heracleion and Thonis were in fact the same city, just with 2 names. Heracleion was Greek and Thonis was Egyptian. From the mid-1990s, Goddio and his team spent years screening the vast area of the Abu Qir Bay. That's this spot right here, off the coast of northern Egypt. Then, 4 miles or 6.5 kilometers off Alexandria's coast, in the year 2000, Frank spotted something revolutionary. As the divers swam, a colossal stone face emerged from the watery shadows, the first of many relics they were about to uncover. It took years to map the entire city's ruins, scattered across the western part of Abukir Bay, largely at a depth of approximately 33 feet, or close to 10 meters. The team finally achieved a size measurement for the lost city, 6.8 by 9.3 miles. Well, that's the size of their research field at least. Who knows if there could be more out there, swept away by the currents over time. To put that in perspective, the research field is larger than the entire city of Paris. But how does one dive team manage to find such relatively condensed ruins in a sea which spans a total of 970,000 square miles? In cooperation with the Egyptian Supreme Council of Antiquities, they were able to utilize the most sophisticated technical equipment, using a water dredge, which is basically an underwater vacuum that sucks away the sand. Frank's team created large, square holes around any newly discovered objects. Once they'd created a space to work in, they carefully cleaned the artifacts using, of all things, spatulas. Dredging isn't a cheap option. Time and time again, we've seen bills skyrocket into the hundreds of millions of dollars, depending on the size of the operation. The Drelton Harbour dredging project in Western Australia equated to a total cost of $150 million, or $33 per meter, just over $10 US per foot. Goddio also needed to hire cranes capable of lifting 50 tons from beneath the surface, pay his divers, operate vessels, pay for artifact storage, and more. All up, the expedition, which continues to this day, could have easily cost hundreds of millions. Thanks to the expedition, Frank and his team have shone a vital light on history and have managed to find an array of astounding, near-priceless artifacts. Highlighting the long list of findings are gold coins and weights made from bronze and stone, slabs of stone inscribed in both ancient Greek and ancient Egyptian, the remains of more than 64 ships, an array of enormous 16-foot statues, hundreds of smaller statues depicting minor gods, numerous amulets and religious charms, and more limestone mummifications than they could count. Individually, these artifacts could be worth millions to museums, if not more. The underwater archaeological research in Thonos Heracleion is ongoing until today, and Goddio has stated that merely 5% of the city has actually been discovered. Imagine how many other million-dollar objects are out there waiting to be found. Goddio's project has not only excited the diving, scientific, and historical-focused communities, but also has thrown Egypt further into the tourism limelight. While a research site is off-limits to the general public, there is plenty more to see across Egypt's coast, which helped the nation grow its tourism revenue from $12.57 billion in 2019. That's not exactly surprising. It is, after all, home to some of the world's most intriguing ancient landmarks. Although, as it turns out, Heracleion is far from the only Mediterranean sunken city. Cast your eye over to the underwater city of Pavlopetri in Greece. This former metropolis is thought to have sunk long ago, around 1000 BC, due to an earthquake that shifted the surrounding land, which affected many of the Greek islands. After years of excavation, the entire city is so far known to be at least 861,000 square feet, with a vast open plaza as the city's center point, surrounded by well-designed roads, houses, and temples. In fact, if we look beyond the Mediterranean, the number of submerged cities accelerates even further, from China and Japan to Jamaica and Turkey. Over in Japan, you'll find the pyramids of Yonaguni-jima, just a few miles away from Taiwan. Experts have locked horns for years as to whether these pyramids, which resemble those found in Mexico and Central America, are man-made or naturally occurring, and we still don't know for sure. Either way, the ruins have been submerged for at least 2,000 years. In the same corner of the world as the pyramids, you'll find arguably the most visually enthralling underwater city on the planet, China's so-called Lion City, otherwise known as Xicheng. Spanning the equivalent of close to 62 football fields, Lion City is over 1,400 years old, dating back as far as the Han Dynasty. As you can see, the entire city has been preserved nearly completely intact. What's most bizarre is that Lion City, the former center of politics and economics in the eastern province of Zhejiang, was sunk deliberately. The Chinese government decided a new hydroelectric power station was required, so they built a man-made lake, burying the area under 130 feet of water. Over in Jamaica, The former booming city of Port Royal served as one of the most important trading ports of the New World. That is, of course, until it fell to the ocean floor at the hands of a devastating earthquake and tsunami in 1692. Amazingly, the ruins are still widely accessible. You can dive and explore the lost city for just a few $100. As we venture over to Turkey, you'll find the Middle East's second largest lake, Lake Van. While the lake itself is worthy of a postcard, welcoming tens of thousands of tourists every year, it's what's below the surface that proves the most intriguing. Hidden down on the Lake Van floor is a 3,000-year-old castle, which is thought to be linked to the remains of the ancient Urartu civilization. The castle spans over a mile, with its walls towering well over 10 feet high. Does this make you want to visit Turkey, or Jamaica, or Egypt? Or would you rather go somewhere else? Let us know in the comments down below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to The Richest, and have a great day. Catch you next time.